Hi, my name is Amy King. I'm here with Kimberly Jones and Jenny Murphy, and we're going to present our diversity curriculum outline. Our professional development session is about language diversity in elementary school. We'll talk about what language diversity is, as well as ways to assist these students and parents that we may come in contact with. We'll collaborate to share ideas about ways to implement best practices in our classrooms so that students get the best possible results.
Our agenda for our PD today consists of defining language diversity, and we'll discuss implications at our school at Bryan Elementary. We'll also talk about classroom tips and tricks, and then we'll have a wrap-up and feedback session.
To get started, let's take a quick look at what language diversity is. There are 4 categories and a couple more, but we're going to focus on the 4 of dual language learners, hearing impaired, nonverbal, and dialect. All of these things fall under the umbrella of language diversity. A dual language learner is probably the most significant thing that we will see in our classrooms with ELL students. We have some students who speak Chinese. Hearing impaired, we also have at the school currently a child who uses a cochlear implant. Nonverbal students, we don't have many. Usually they get caught in kindergarten. Kim, you don't have many nonverbals that come to you, do you?
No.
And so most of the time nonverbals are going to get caught in the IEP process before they get here. And with dialect is more of in Appalachia, or if we had people from New York come down to the South, that translation of some of the words and our accent and trying to help with that language to get them to join the flow of our Southern dialect. So all of those things fall under the category of language diversity. You guys have anything else about language diversity? Did I miss anything? You good?
That sounds good.
All right.
So in the lower grades, I would just like to mention how language diversity can impact the kindergarten classroom and also K through 2, possibly. Since kindergarten is a major transition for young children, many of the kindergarten students are experiencing school for the first time, being away from their mommies. So they're terrified anyway. Fear is a big impact, especially with children that are having trouble understanding their teacher and their friends.
Yeah. And I think that was harder this year, especially when they started coming to school, because mom couldn't walk them in the building.
You're right.
That
It
was
was
hard.
tough.
And I think in second grade, by the time they get to us, they've got a groove of how to learn the language and how to adapt a little bit better in our classrooms.
Yeah.
So that's
By upper elementary grades, students are generally more well-adjusted socially, and so we turn our attention to helping students to be able to communicate academically.
yeah, and that would make sense.
Yeah.
Parent communication. Parent communication is vital to being able to have a successful school year. It's especially important when parents have an issue that might impede their ability to understand typical communication. For example, hearing impaired parents might need more written communication during a parent conference to aid in understanding if the teacher is unable to use sign language. When a parent doesn't speak English, the teacher should use translation services such as Google Translate or take advantage of in-person translation services that the school system offers. It's also always a good idea for a teacher to try to understand cultural differences and how parents of other cultures might view education differently.
When it comes to exceptional education and intervention with some of our language diversity students, with our ELLs, we know from our downtown representative, and Kim, what was her name? or do you remember, or Amy?
Lori McCormick.
Lori McCormick. She is our downtown ELL supervisor, and she gave scales to all of us because we've all at some point had a language diverse student in our classroom. And we have scales that we can use for them for intervention and to help them as they go through the school years. But one thing we found out was that a lot of times these students are over identified for special education services because their language hasn't caught up with them academically. And so because of that, sometimes our exceptional education teachers get overloaded with referrals. And it's just because a lot of the times they still have not picked up on the language and how to adapt to that.
Jenny, I will say, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I will say that it's really tricky because we've had students in 5th grade before that we really debated. The child was still having difficulty, even though they'd been in an English speaking school for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a tricky thing to try to figure out how much of this issue is language development and how much of it might be an academic issue, a true academic issue.
And if they don't give the test in that student's language, then you still don't know if you're getting a true IQ
measure
score. Yeah, because if they still can't understand you and you're trying to get their IQ, they still can't understand you. The other thing that we have with intervention and exceptional education is we talked before about Lori McCormick. She runs the EL department at our district level, and they assign EL teachers by how many EL students you have. And because we usually don't have a lot, generally we don't have an EL teacher who comes to service our students. And because of that, that falls to the teachers having to try and figure out small groups and have to figure out intervention for some of our students, which is a difficult thing to do on top of all your other students that you're trying to balance and juggle. So,
right.
Good. All right, here we go.
You can go ahead.
Okay.
I actually have quite a few ideas for kindergarten, especially kindergarten, since I teach kindergarten. When the EL supervisor came out to speak with me about several students that I've had in the past, she just simply told me that everything that I'm doing in kindergarten is actually exactly what I needed to be doing. It's appropriate for what they needed. I use lots of picture cards daily, lots of facial gestures, lots of hand signals. I use some sign language. Read alouds are a wonderful way to pull them in. Background knowledge, you need to build on what they bring to the classroom, and you also need to investigate things at home, and just check out how things are, how many people actually speak English in the home, and just find out how often English is spoken. Student conversations are so important, especially in kindergarten. I like to take the conversations that I'm having with them and extend them. Usually the ELL students only will say a couple of words. So I'll turn around and ask questions in regards to the words that they said, and to kind of pull in new words. And that's where the vocabulary comes in also. Pull in new words and just, well, vocabulary is important in kindergarten anyway. So it's just, that's why I think that the ELL supervisor stressed that everything that I was doing was definitely on target to help these kids the best way that I could.
And I think as far as K2 is concerned, a lot of times if we have kids with a big enough age gap, some of our second graders could come help you in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. That letting them come down for a little while and read and help translate for you some of the things might be something in the future. Literally just thought of that as we were having the discussion, that that's something that could work. Or even with some of the upper grades to come down and help some of our littles. That might be.
That's an awesome idea.
Yep.
Okay. So now let's take a look at some ideas for 3-5. Usually when students enter upper elementary school, we're more likely to try to integrate language acquisition in with content. And one of the things that we can do is assign students peer helpers. Students like to help each other. And of course, we always repeat directions and check for understanding with all of our students, but especially with English language learners, just to make sure that they truly do understand what it is they're supposed to be doing. And like I said before, we're learning language in the context of whatever content we're doing. And then sometimes it's appropriate to use technology. We use technology with all of our students, obviously, but sometimes it can be especially helpful with English language learners.
Now, here's our point in our professional development where we want to see how much everyone has learned or has picked up on as we've gone through our presentation. So if you will use your phone or your laptop or your Chromebook, you can scan the QR code and it's going to take you to our Kahoot game. And there are 5 questions for you to answer. And we're going to be checking. You can work as a team, you can work individually. So when you put your name in, be honest, because we'll find out. So pop your name in, and then once you've got our questions, come back and look at the slide and rank yourself. How well did you do with language diversity? Are you a mastery of all of our information? Are you proficient? Need a little bit of work? 3, you need a lot more work. Or if you got 2 or less, we might need to have a little conversation afterward and let you have PowerPoint to go back through and look. So we're going to give you a chance to do that. And while you do that, we're not going to help you cheat. You got to remember it on your own. So when you get done with that, if you will, once again, use your QR code, or you can type in that web address, we are sending you to our Padlet. Now, Padlet is an online digital corkboard. We want you to log in, leave us a sticky note, tell us something that you got from professional development today that you can take back to your classroom. Or maybe it's an aha moment that you never thought of. Like I had my aha moment of, I can send my 2nd graders down to 1st or kindergarten, or just a question you have, something that you need a little bit further information on. We want those to be on our Padlet, and so everybody can see and contribute to our information about language diversity. And we want to take also a second to say thanks for being here, for joining us, for sticking out our professional development. And we hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can contact us, email us, call us, all the things. Have a great afternoon.